What's up, guys? It's Lou from Unbox Therapy, and as the title implies, this is a comparison, a versus video between the two hottest phones on the planet right now, the Samsung Galaxy S4 and the HTC One. Both flagship devices, both manufacturers looking to sell a ton of these things, and you guys have been very, very interested in the coverage on these two devices up until this point, so this comparison makes a hell of a lot of sense. One thing I want to get out of the way right now before the fanboys start going crazy down in the comments section is that these are both great devices, and they're a hell of a lot closer in terms of speed and functionality than a lot of people want to believe. So if you feel strongly about one being light years ahead of the other one, trust me, you're wrong. I've played with both extensively, and they are a lot more similar than they are different. Of course, there are a couple of features and functions that are slightly different, and that's what this video is for, but it's not light years. It's not this major gap between the two. There is no major delta there. All right, enough with the preamble. Let's get into the comparison. We're going to start it out with the Galaxy S4, this large 5-inch 1080p screen for an effective PPI of 441. It is Super AMOLED, but a lot of the story here with Samsung has to do with software customization, software features that they've put into TouchWiz that just aren't available anywhere else. From lock screen customization, home screen customization, things like air gesture that got a lot of press at the original event when this was announced. You've got things like group play for sharing what you're playing with other people who happen to have the same device. You've got a sensor on the front of the phone that will take a look at your face and your eyeballs more specifically to tell if you're looking at the phone. The reason that this is important is for their feature called Smart Pause. So if you look away, you have a little conversation, and then you look back to your device, it'll pick up playing where you left off. It'll pause in between. You've got another sensor on the top of the phone for Samsung Watch On. You have this remote function to control your television. You've got something called S Health, which is a fitness tracker. Anyways, you guys can tell where I'm going here. They have completely overhauled the software to put in a bunch of stuff that just isn't on other Android devices, so it's definitely worth considering. The camera here is top-notch. I do have to admit, this is a 13 megapixel shooter producing some of the best pictures of any smartphone ever, maybe the best ever. I mean, it's arguable because what is the best picture? Is it the one with the most resolution, the crispest one, or is it one that performs well in low light? I'll talk more about that when we get to the HTC One, but trust me, this thing produces some beautiful images, assuming that the lighting is reasonable. Another feature this one has that the HTC One simply does not is a removable battery and expandable storage. Now, this is very important. If you're a traveler, if you're a person who's constantly on airplanes or something like that, having a removable battery is a big deal. Plus, it's a relatively large one. It's a 2600 milliamp hour battery and a micro SD expansion. All right, now the HTC One. I'm going to give you some key points on the HTC One. First and foremost, this thing is elegant. It's got top-notch build quality. I don't need to tell you guys. You've probably seen videos on it already. Everybody appreciates what HTC has engineered here. This thing is almost a piece of artwork. You've got a more stock experience, closer to the way that Android was intended to be used by Google, though there are some slight customizations, including blink feed. This is a live home screen, which is going to mix your social news with other news from around the web and give you a more interactive home screen interface. You could disable this if you don't want to use it. The story gets more interesting as you move to the back of the device, specifically when you talk about the camera. It has a 4 ultra-pixel camera. What the hell does that mean? It means you're going to get really great low-light performance at the expense of a little bit of resolution. All the tests that I've seen and personally taken basically show that this thing is not as good as the S4 in good lighting conditions, but it's better than the S4 in low light conditions. So that's up to you to figure out which of those aspects or elements is more valuable to you. Do you want to bring pictures to life at night, or do you want ultimate resolution in the day? The speakers are probably my favorite feature on this phone. Finally, we have forward-facing speakers with no audio clipping, with just fantastic sound, and it's facing you. So when you happen to be lying down on the couch and you don't want to wear headphones, you still have great sound for watching your multimedia. Now, as we know, everyone's talking about build quality. That seems to be the biggest issue here in these comparisons. And, you know, personally speaking, build quality does matter, but I don't think you should necessarily necessarily choose a phone only based on build quality. So in conclusion, for me, what would be my choice? I would probably choose the HTC One if I could only have one of these two phones, but it's not just because of build quality, it's because I'm such a huge fan of the speakers. Now that might not matter to some people. To other people, you might be saying, listen, 99% of my usage is with headphones. If that's the case, then things get a lot harder in terms of deciding between the two. Then I might move to the S4 and say, hey, I want that expandable storage. I want that removable battery so that when I'm on an airplane, I can have an extra one and boom, I'm ready to go. Some other things, you might be really interested in some of those software features. You do have to give the edge to Samsung, at least for offering those things up. I've always been a fan of the more stock experience because I've been using Nexus devices for so long. So the transition to the HTC One for me is just a little bit easier. So that's why it would be my choice. But I'm going to conclude with what I said earlier in this video. They are both fantastic. You cannot go wrong with either of these devices. My choice is the HTC One, but I could very easily get by with the S4 as a daily driver. I just prefer the speakers, and I'm an audio guy. Speakers matter to me, even on a phone. Anyways, that wraps up this video. Thanks as always for watching, guys. Leave a thumbs up down below if you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you on the next one. Later.
No.